I'm coming, Robert. It's 5 a.m. We're reviewing The Marathon Man.
Welcome to Robert. Oh, Janae's already laughing. I knew that was coming. Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube video podcast where we explore all things cinema. Let's welcome back to the show. You'll know her for sure, folks, if you've been watching this show ongoing for the last few years or so. Janae Rachel Ballo is a writer, producer, and filmmaker, of course. Janae, welcome back to your first, well, actually second non-Perkins video review outside of my initial interview with you.
I'm so happy to be here. Like, I'm ecstatic.
Well,
didn't know when or if you were going to get me out. You had the key and you just kind of dangled it like a carrot. But I was stuck in Perkins land for quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's done a few things to me that you're going to have to pay for. So I'm sending the check.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Literally, yeah. Vito, he's certainly played his share of dark parts that we covered, but this is also not a light film. As I mentioned to you in the past, when the show initially started, this was an early film review I did back when I had my co-host, Steve Chambers, who was on the show recently. And I've been re-reviewing movies because at that time, the reviews I did were very short. They were like 10, 15 minutes. And so I've been re-reviewing some of those early ones. So this was one that I know interested you. So I'm glad that we were able to pick it today. Let me just read a brief synopsis. After the murder of his older brother, a New York history student is hounded by shadowy government agents on the trail of a Nazi war criminal who is trying to retrieve smuggled diamonds. This was directed by John Schlesinger. It was written by William Goldman based on his book, and which is the same title, Marathon Man. And it starred Dustin Hoffman, Laurence Olivier, Roy Scheider, and Marthe Keller. All right. Talk to me about your first time seeing this film, Janae, and what did you initially think?
I did think about this question because you've asked me this every single time. So I came prepared, but not with a preface or a preamble. Okay, so I was projecting film in a theater in LA, and I was doing double bills at the time, 35 millimeter film. And around this time, a filmmaker, he was really in love with this movie. And I believe, from my recollection, he recommended it to me. And I loved his work. I mean, everybody loves his work, pretty much.
Who was the filmmaker?
If you just say it so dead on.
Was it John Schlesinger?
No, unfortunately not. I did meet Joe Mantegna and Ricky Jay from House of Cards, if you want to get a little bit older, crime.
Oh, cool.
It was Paul Thomas Anderson.
Really?
Yeah, it was Paul.
Wow. So when was this? What year are we talking roughly?
I was about, I would say 20. I'm 30.
Okay, so 10 years back.
10 years. Well, and I hung out with Paul for a good amount of time for a few years after that. But, there was, seriously, going into actual filmmakers that really, I have nothing to lose, that have great taste and have met them. Ryan Johnson, I used to go to all the time. We would hang out, we would email. He always had spot on taste. And Last of Sheila, that Perkins movie that he wrote, was one of his biggest favorites. But yes, I saw the movie Marathon Man, not Last of Sheila. And I love Dustin Hoffman. But more importantly, and I just remembered this, I was 5 years old And Savannah, my sister, we were all up north for Mad City, the movie that I hope I got
with Travolta and Dustin.
Yeah. And so they filmed up north at City Hall for like a little bit. And my mom, being who she was, all of a sudden we're there with Dustin Hoffman. And Dustin and Savannah, they hung out and they took pictures. And he said, why not? I haven't done my good deed of the day. And he would always, not as a joke either, like he literally went into how he does a good deed every day and make sure that he follows through. So I always sought out Dustin Hoffman after my sister meeting with him and seeing that photo everywhere in our house is.
Oh my God.
And then, you know, Paul suggesting a movie of his. And I love it. I love it.
Talk to me about meeting Laurence Olivier. I know that was
well, you know, once upon a time, a very long time ago, Carrie Fisher brought him back from the dead. And I mean, and Carrie would be able to do it too. She would be able to summon him.
I can see that.
Yeah, just throw Jeff Goldblum in there. I'm like, yes, Olivier. Yeah.
I've only seen Dustin from somewhat of a distance presenting a film he was in during TIFF
Really?
Years ago, about 10 years ago. But he's always been a favorite of mine. And I think I probably initially wanted to see this as I was getting into his filmography. I was trying to remember when I first saw it, but it must have been like when I was really getting into movies, certainly in the early days. Yeah, so, 2005 or something like that. But I was trying to remember like what I thought. I've definitely seen it over the years. Like I've seen it more than once for sure. And I mean, I like it a lot. There's a lot. I think it's a great thriller, and there's a lot in it that's very interesting and compelling. I do think some things in it I'm not crazy about, which we'll get into. Some things are I didn't think worked very well, but we'll get into that. But let's talk a little bit about what you feel this film is all about. I mean, what are your big takeaways on your last viewing?
So it's interesting, right? Because you said that you are not big on some things, and we'll touch on that later. When I was just getting into film, like truly immersing myself into it all, I mean, everything's so romantic, and it feels like the honeymoon period. It is the honeymoon period. So any film that you watch, unless you really, really, really don't like it, you're like, oh, how did they do that? Like, That's amazing. And then later on, with experience and with everything else that comes with life, you start to go, why are they doing that? But anyway, I love the film. I mean, I like the film. I like it. I think that it feels a tad dated, but it works. That it feels like it's like a time capsule in a way, and you can bring it back and it doesn't feel old. Does that make sense? Like it feels dated, obviously, because of the year and everything around it. But if you bring it back, it feels like it's entertaining still.
Well, I think it has some things in it that are very like classic, even like out of the classic Hollywood period. Not that this is that period, but it has for me, a strong like Hitchcock influence to it. Like, for example, the Marthe Keller character is undercover, and we don't know that she's undercover until later. And even though she's pretending to be the boyfriend of Babe, who Dustin Hoffman plays, she then actually falls for him for real. And we Hitchcock did similar things like that in so many of his spy films.
Dare take me back to Perkins, man. I don't care about it.
Yeah, not Psycho. North by Northwest, for example. But Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't find anything to be too dated in. Is there something about the movie that's dated to you?
No, it's the aesthetic. It's more so the aesthetic because people today they really
Mm.
can't sit down and watch. If I were to show somebody today the movie, I don't think they would go, "Oh, that's the '90s or that's the '80s," or
Oh, I
that's
see what you're saying. Yeah.
them, and say, "No, it's actually this." But it's still entertaining. It moves and it moves really well.
Yeah.
So it has a big personality along with the score. And Roy Schneider, I mean, he's kind of hot. Who do you think's hotter?
He was ripped. Jesus Christ.
Dustin Hoffman or Dustin Hoffman, Roy Schneider, or Anthony Perkins, and remember my name.
Oh, definitely. Just to correct you, it's Scheider.
Oh, Scheider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Scheider for sure. Scheider. It's funny because Robert Evans, who produced this film, said he thought that he was going to turn into the next Bogart, and I was like, yeah, actually, I never thought of that until I saw it. I mean, that didn't quite happen. Not that it needed to happen, but he didn't have a career or play. Not that I can think of parts like that, but he does have a Bogart quality. But he is so good in this film. I mean, everybody's great in it. I mean, the performances. I mean, Hoffman is like, you can feel every emotion, particularly after his brother is killed and the cops are there and they're like interrogating him. And then just when he starts to snap and lose it on everybody, I mean, it is completely organic. I mean, he was such an organic actor, an instinctive actor. Yeah, he's wonderful in it. But some of the things, I when I watched it again the other night, I was thinking I must be naive to not have. I mean, maybe I did see this before, but I hadn't thought of it too much. But how much the themes, I mean, outside of the obvious that they're after this Nazi, but how much of the themes from World War II and the Holocaust and what Jewish people, how they were, persecuted and murdered, and how much they suffered, and how much that experience then went on to the next generation. And in this case, we see that from the opening with that car accident, when the Jewish man is chasing the German guy in the car who is what we find out is Olivier's brother. And it's interesting because as soon as he recognizes that he's German, he immediately calls him a Nazi. And it was a coincidence that he actually is a Nazi, but that guy doesn't know that. And which plays like darkly comedic at the same time, the way that they're interacting. But there is something about that sense of like that happened because of something that happened 30 years ago, and not necessarily between the two of these people, but more about that guy's experience. And that really plays a huge part in this, because even who Olivier plays, the Nazi Zell, or I think I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, Zell, or Zell, Dr. Christian Zell. I mean, I was like, well, why does he is so sure that Doc is trying to steal his diamonds? I mean, he's going after Doc. He goes after his brother. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, yeah, again, because this guy is not, he's not outside of the obvious Nazi, clearly still holds those views and is anti-Semitic. And, Babe and Doc are both Jewish. I mean, their last name's Levy. And it's that thing of that guy must be taking my diamonds, which goes into these terrible prejudices of that people hold, awful, ugly, hateful ways of stereotypical ways of thinking of someone Jewish, that, they're greedy or something like that. And so right away, I mean, everything he's doing is because he thinks Doc is going to is after his money. That paranoia, which is so, and that hate, which is, of course, still exists, but again, is that from that experience of the war and everything before it. And I was like, I don't know how. I was like, why did that not dawn on me before? If it did dawn on me, I must have just kind of forgot. Did any of that pop out to you?
No, I mean, it could be a very quiet movie when you're looking for its message. it can be kind of quiet.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but what a motivator. I mean, seriously, for a character that your biggest motivation here is because of racism.
Yeah.
It's, you're actually picking the wrong guy just because of his nationality. But yeah, I remember my dad always, I just remember this now, him always asking me, and I hadn't seen the movie yet when I was a preteen, is it safe? Is it safe?
Right. Which became such an iconic line, right?
Yeah. And I would go, is what safe?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Like, what's happening now?
Right.
But yeah, I know that, I mean, this is going off of the very important subject that you brought up, but it's kind of tracking Olivier, that I heard some story from Hoffman or somebody that he took the gentle approach of like being very gentle when working on his teeth.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't want to be menacing. He wanted to be very, very gentle.
Yeah, he's almost kind to him. Like, it's more psychologically like scary, the fact that he's doing that. Like, you're not like, you keep wondering, like, what is he up to? What is he going to do? And then before you know it, it's like, oh, as Babe screams out. Yeah, I thought that was a great choice.
No, I mean, it's taking like the Novocaine and putting it back on and going, there you go. And it's that we've seen that in villains and antagonists, like in nowadays, and after this movie, certainly. And it works because it's like prime for Stockholm syndrome, but more so it works because it's, like you said, it's unexpected. It's completely unexpected. And to see him, I mean, that guy who, he was a legendary actor.
Yeah.
Complete legendary actor, but yeah.
Well, it centers not only on that, but then we also have like the blacklist, like the McCarthy era period, because
I brought it to like method acting in a way. So just please bring it back. Please.
Yeah, on to the next point. But because this element of like tyranny comes into play. Like, Babe is at Columbia University and he's this student, and his professor is, the assignment is their dissertation is to be on tyranny. And he keeps telling Babe, you have to include the McCarthy era. And then they're cutting back to his finding his father committing suicide. So the strong suggestion here, and when we think of the blacklist period, anyone who knows about classic Hollywood, that period, is that they went after Hollywood. But not only did they go after Hollywood, they went after people in all kinds of different professions, including, academics. So, the father was blacklisted. He was ruined. The McCarthy went after him and he committed suicide. So that element of like, not only from the perspective of Nazis, but also from the perspective of like McCarthy and the blacklisting era of like this tyranny. And then this trauma that Babe and Doc clearly experienced is still so much a part of their lives. They just deal with it in different ways. Like, Babe is trying to they're not trying to confront it, but he's trying to just sort of like his professor says to him, is, you're trying to just basically become like your father. And so he can't quite find his own path. And then Doc, on the other hand, is someone who he's so different, where he's like this Nazi hunter. And so he's taking his feelings and putting it into like hunting Nazis and hunting people who are tyrants and having to resort to violence if need be, which I thought was interesting, because you don't even know that they're brothers until Doc pretends to break in. And then you quickly realize that they're both brothers, but this is something that they haven't been able to deal with, understandably so. I mean, you even see that when Doc sees that Babe is writing about his father in his dissertation, he gets so angry. He's like, forget it, So they've tried to avoid it and not deal with it in different ways, which goes into the metaphor of the marathon man. We see him off the top running, and he's thinking about another runner that he clearly admires and emulates that he's trying to be. And it's the metaphor of, well, you have to find your own path in life, and which is what his brother and the professor sort of encourage in him, but the contradiction, we don't see Doc say this, but Babe quotes him as saying, Doc says I have to confront my problems, but clearly at least the problem with what happened to his father, even Doc hasn't been able to confront. So I found, it's interesting how much they packed into, like, it's a pretty heavy plot driven film. Like even Schlesinger said that, like, he's like, and he was trying to find ways. I don't know if this is necessarily in the novel, all these interesting character dynamics, but he's like, trying to bring out more things about characters as opposed to just like, oh, okay, let's just make it a plot driven film. I mean, was any of what I'm saying your experience? Did you have another take on those roles?
I mean, I certainly, everything that you said, and to add on to like a new one, the brotherly dynamic, siblings. That really, it's such a quick moment, what you mentioned between Roy and Dustin, where they are talking about their father, and Dustin really wants to show Roy what he, had found, and Roy doesn't want anything to do with it about their dad. And
right.
And he says something along the lines, and so quick, but it really pops out and creates, again, that word dynamic. Like it makes it come alive. But he said something like, he's just a drunk in regards to his father. He's just a drunk. Forget about it. It doesn't matter. He's the one that is to blame, or something like that. And then Dustin has his counter on. Argument that defends his dad as if he's been doing this for such a long time, and he knows the truth. So I mean, that kind of stuff, I liked it because I've had moments myself of like, you want to show something and you get excited, and it's like your brother, or it's like it's regarding a family member, especially. And you kind of get shot down, or you get a different opinion. Your expectations were maybe raised a little too high. And so I kind of felt the emotion behind that more than, oh, they're giving me more information, new information about their dad that might come down the line later. But I think that they played off each other pretty well too. I mean, they're sweet. The casting, I thought it was sweet.
It's so well done. Yeah, it's so well done. I almost wish there was more scenes between Hoffman and Scheider, because I mean, they're such great actors. Not that the film is any less of a really good film, because we don't, but they're so good together. And I also appreciated that there's nothing really like sentimental about the film. Like even in Doc's death, like so often you see in movies like the famous last words as they're dying, and it's almost like a monologue. It almost feels like. Sorry, you didn't
even see any of that. Like,
no, I know, which was great. Yeah,
like,
and it's
myself and go, wait, did they meet at all? Because that's usually what happens. And did they talk? But no, he's being, tied up in a black bag, and Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, it's blunt. And it moves so quickly. And I think that was such, the rhythm was so well done, because they're really putting you in the head of Babe, where he's sort of like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And we only, with the exception of a few things, we only discover things as he discovers them. It's not like in the sense of like a suspense film where, like as Hitchcock said, the character, the audience knows more than the characters often do. you know, to create that feeling of audiences, those emotions of, you know, like, I'm sure you know, the famous example is if there's a bomb under a table at a restaurant and two people are having a conversation, if you tell the audience there's a bomb, but the characters don't know it, then it's a very different experience emotionally, as opposed to if no one knows there's a bomb and then the bomb goes off, it's just a surprise and you just get one reaction as opposed to a longer suspenseful reaction. But in this, you know, in this case, it's really it's more that you are discovering things as he does, which I thought was smart, because it in one way it's like, you, if you want to really pick up on the details of these things with the characters, you really have to go back, because it moves so quick. You just kind of get swept up in it and you feel like you're Babe. I mean, obviously there are some things we knew before he did, like we know that his brother is not this businessman that he thinks he is and that kind of stuff. We already knew that. And you know, a few other things, but mostly we discover things as he does. So I thought that was a smart way to tell it, because I think if they had told us more than Babe knew, I just don't think it would be very, I don't know.
I think it would be a little too predictable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Especially since he's running, you know, he's a runner.
Yeah.
Do you like running, by the way?
Hate it.
You hate cardio? I do. Like, I have to say, I mean, that's my bike, but I have to say active because I can't sit still.
I see. Yeah. See, I'm the opposite. I can only sit still and can't be active.
I can't sit still at all. Like, it's, but I mean, running is the only thing I can do. And there's like this moment, the only thing that keeps me from running is the runner's high. You hit it and then you go, okay, now I can do this. All right. So you just got to keep doing it. The runner's high is amazing. But it's not like I'm not hitting the gym like 5 times a week or even 3 times a week. I'm just fidgeting mainly.
Yeah, that's your exercise.
Yeah, that gets it in.
But yeah, he was doing, like, he would run half a mile before the takes up, which I can understand that, because you want to look like you're out of breath.
He wanted everything to be real. Yeah. Everything to be real. Even drowning him in water. And
oh my God, it's so funny because when I was watching it, I couldn't help but wonder. I was like, when they're putting him underwater, I was starting to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, he was under that water for a while, and I wondered, I'm like, how did they do that? Did they just like? Did they start and then cut and then go back and forth? But I'm like, no, there's not a lot of editing there. So I'm like, that must be him. And
they gave him oxygen.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's nuts.
That is. So let's talk a little bit about method acting, because, you know, Shia LaBeouf, Tom Hardy, those are all people that like go really, really big into it. Tom Hardy's not a method actor.
He went to the he says he isn't. He went to the school in London called. Yeah, I mean, see, it's interesting. He went to the school in London called the Drama Center. And I remember one of my teachers, because I studied there, called it the Trauma Center, which I thought was funny. But the thing is that like all of those actors like Dustin or Robert De Niro or Daniel Day-Lewis who like did these like insane health, like risking their health and stuff. It's like none of that is actually method acting. It's just that those people came from that school of like truthful acting, and then they started just going further and further on set, and then the media picked up on it and said, "Oh yeah, they're method. This is method." But it's not. I mean, it's not like you go to school and they're like, "Hey, if you're going to do a drowning scene, you better put your head under the water for 30 seconds." You know, so it's just like none of this stuff is actually has nothing. None of it has anything to do with method acting. It's just that these guys were like, they just couldn't do it in a creative way. Sometimes, like they had to, like, you know, I could understand running for a while before you start a take so that you look. I can understand that because there's no risk and for your health but that's pretty crazy that he was like, yeah, keep me under the water or let me see if I can actually get out. But yeah, I always like to like clarify because I know like those, method gets associated with those kind of actors who do these kind of things, but they're just choosing to do it because they feel that they have to do it in order for it to be real, but it's kind of nuts.
And that's silly. I mean, it's really silly to go to that extent because sometimes, first of all, isn't it an adrenaline rush already to be able to go like, okay, I gotta go to this scene, I gotta make sure it's good. We're all like perfectionists deep down inside, and we're all insecure. That's why we're stepping into another character, and but using that fear and everything. And so it's going to these extremes in order to make sure it translates on screen and out to an audience. I think it's a version of overcompensation, but I mean, whatever gets you there too, right?
Yeah, if that's what they want to do. I mean, I just, I don't want anyone to get killed, but
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I certainly have had I shouldn't be talking because I am a little bit of a hypocrite. I've had my kind of stuff at the expense of myself. But I never would, if somebody came to me and said, put your head underwater and sit there, I'd be like, no freaking way. Why don't you move out the way, please?
Right.
I would say please after sounding so threatening. But I saw Daniel Day-Lewis be asked the question or relate a story of how Laurence Olivier walked up to and he saw him pretty much just out of breath, skinny, didn't look like he ate, shower, or slept in days. And from there, Olivier said, my God, what's wrong with you, my boy, or whatever.
Yeah. My dear boy, try acting. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. And Daniel Day-Lewis, he had a comeback to that. He said, well, in fairness to Dustin, and not verbatim, but yeah, I mean, method acting or this type of acting, not method, because I learned something quite new today. You're not like that. You're not like that. And you come across excellent and easily and accessible. Sometimes a jerk. Sometimes, you come across as the character. You personally, Robert. I should know.
That's because I'm not acting.
You're not acting. You're being quite convincing. No,
yeah, exactly. I'm just that way, really. But yeah, I know the story you mean with Day-Lewis, and it's interesting because Dustin cleared up because people always thought that he was talking about Hoffman's approach to acting, like, oh, hey, you're staying up all night, like, why don't you just try acting and stop like doing things for real? But Dustin cleared it up was that he just said, why do you look so disheveled or whatever? And it's because he was going through a divorce at the time, so he was like depressed and anxious and stuff. I don't know if I'm just interpreting how he may have been feeling, but this was the days of like Studio 54, like he was partying all night. And it was, as he said, it was like an excuse, to like, oh, I can use this in the work. And I think he had made Olivier think that he had said to Olivier, oh yeah, it's for the work, but this maybe as a joke. But actually, Dustin said he was actually referring to his lifestyle, like try acting. Like, I mean, maybe he meant if you have problems, the best way to deal with your problems is just go and work. I think that's that's my interpretation of what Dustin was saying. But that story for years got like interpreted like as like the classical British actor like hating method acting, which was a conflict for a long time. But they loved working together. I mean, they had a lot of respect and affection for one another. And I know over the years they both, praised one another. So a lot of that stuff is like it gets overblown in the media to this day, right?
I mean, I'm seriously relishing in this moment because I love when things like that get demystified. Because it's
there you go. We
we
just did it.
Yeah, man. Because it goes down to the very beginning of what I said. It's like, it's just people who are just like, you walk up, you say, hey, and they're going through a divorce. But then they think, okay, maybe I can kind of justify this in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe I'm just going to say it so quickly that it comes out like a lie and I didn't mean to intentionally lie. Whatever it is, he's human and he's trying to be, human. He's also very human. All of this is such a weird paradox, and it's just getting caught up in our heads further and further and further we go. I mean, it's like you don't have to take yourself seriously. You just have to take your project seriously.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Olivier is fantastic in the film, and it's hard to believe that he was actually like going through cancer treatment while they were doing it. Like,
Speaking of which, that's a good moment for anybody who's seen me hit this.
Yeah.
This is a great device only for smokers of cigarettes. This is a great device to be able to use if you want to taper off nicotine. If cold turkey hasn't worked, this is my PSA of the day and forevermore. If cold turkey hasn't worked, if nicotine patches haven't worked, if lozenges, all the NRT out there in the world, try this and you can actually lower the nicotine level. Do not create new associations though by vaping indoors like I am right now. Go outside, treat it as a smoke, come back inside, wash your hands as you would. And you can actually lower it until you go to zero nicotine. And what my biggest suggestion is, once you get to zero nicotine, change the juice to something you really like so your brain will get that dopamine hit. It might take years, but tapering is a good way to go. All right.
And that's our commercial for the day, folks. Back to our regular program.
Like you just freeze frame, like it's like this. And then it cuts to
smoke to me talking about poor Olivier on this film. But it's hard to. He had made. What I heard was that he had done it. He took the part because they gave him a lot of money, and he thought he could give it to his kids. So I imagine, in case he didn't survive, but he did survive, and he lived another 13 years. But I know, like, if you watch Dustin Hoffman on Inside the Actors Studio, he started like crying over like how hard it was for Olivier to be able to like work. And it's hard. And he gave like one of the like most iconic film performances. So that's a testament to his, craft. But yeah, the trivia, like a lot of those, interesting acting style trivias on this are pretty interesting. But like I said, I do think, like, for example, like I do think some things in the film don't work quite well. Like, and I know William Goldman was really angry about the ending, and I wasn't crazy about the ending either, because it was meant to end, the book ends like right after Zell gets killed. Okay. And so then they added this scene where he's jogging and then he throws the gun into the water, which was his father's gun that he had for years, which is the gun he used to kill Zell. And Goldman was furious, and it was such a Hollywood ending. I just thought, okay, I appreciated that it was like, I'm like, okay, after all of what he experienced, now it's like another set of trauma. I just thought it was too simplistic to him to be like, I'm done, I've solved my problems, and thrown the gun. I was like, come on.
Wait. How about you do that again? All right, do that again. All right, Slate, take one.
Why do I have to do it again? I did my first take, director.
It was so good. You're like, no, you gotta do it in the like. I'm done. I
just thought it was. I just thought it was lame. I just thought. I mean, I see what they were going for. I mean, maybe they were saying, well, he at least solved or is starting to solve his problems with his father, but over his father's suicide. But I was like, why did they need to tack that on? What did you think of that? The way it ended.
I think it's Robert Evans' fault.
Well, apparently Goldman said Hoffman insisted on that.
my God.
So I don't know why he wanted that. I don't know if that's true. That's what I read.
Heat of the day.
Yeah, maybe. Put something optimistic in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a movie. I know, like, the book is never going to be the same as the movie, right? It could be better. The movie could be better than the book, or vice versa. Usually, like, I know someone who loves Jurassic Park and thinks that the novel itself is so much more better than the movie, and hates the movie with a passion. But yeah, I mean, the ending, it just happens that way, you know? It happens that way where they feel like we don't want to lose the audience. The last 15 minutes of the film, the last 10 minutes of the film, it has to be like, that's the memorable part. That's where they actually remember everything. They don't remember the first 15. They remember the last 15. And we need Dustin Hoffman. And maybe if it was Dustin, he wants to be like the hero and he wants to make sure his arc is complete. What have you? I mean,
could be, yeah. I guess so. Yeah, it's possible.
It makes me kind of check out. It makes me check out completely when I see any Hollywood ending. So whenever I see those tacked on endings, I kind of just
Yeah. I wasn't crazy about it. And you know, the other thing I was wondering was like when like Doc meets Zell, when he gets killed by Zell, and at this point he knows that he went after his brother, that clearly he was the one going after him. And when he was in France, you know, that great scene where he gets attacked in the hotel, which was such, I mean,
that was pretty sexy. I mean, Roy Schneider, I had a big crush on Roy Schneider. Am I mispronouncing? Scheider.
Yeah.
Scheider?
Yeah. Scheider, yeah. Think shy and then der.
Scheider. It's locked. I had a big crush on him when I was a little girl. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Him. You want to hear my Rolodex?
No. Well, what it was when he got killed, I couldn't help but wonder why Doc would even have met him. I'm like, why would you have a meeting with him? He clearly was the one. Maybe he didn't think he would actually kill him. I mean, it's not so far fetched. It felt a little like, why would you at this point, after everything he's been doing? I just thought that was a little odd.
He's fearless. That's why.
He's frivolous?
He's so sexy that he becomes fearless.
That works.
Well, he made it work. Yeah.
It's not like I'm probably being maybe a little nitpicky. It's not a huge problem. It was a little questionable. But again, we've been talking about how great Hoffman is in this. He is fantastic. And I do think it would have maybe worked better with someone younger because he's
fantastic, man.
I'm sorry. I love Hoffman. You know, he's fantastic. But because it's it's not because he's in school. It's not because he's a student, because older people could go back to school and stuff. But it was more that the way in which he was with like Marthe Keller, like he was so innocent and almost like, you know, like juvenile with her. Like he follows her home and he pretends that he took her book as a way to like be from when they met in the library, as a way to be able to justify following her. And then just the way he like follows her inside the door and up the stairs. But he's doing it like totally from like a naive, innocent way, which I thought it was kind of funny, even though I'm like at the same time it's kind of creepy. But I just thought, you know, his arc is this person like who needs to find their own path in life, you know, hanging on to the past. Not that older people don't experience that too, but I just feel like it feels more like a student, like a young student. And I think it would have been even more like felt even more dangerous if it was like someone 20, you know, early 20s. But that's just my feeling about it. Again, not a huge problem. Obviously, it's an iconic performance that everyone loves. He looks younger. Like in The Graduate, he's 30, but playing 20. He doesn't exactly look 20 at this point. He looks maybe 30 or early 30s. But yeah, that was my one little, I thought, It's kind of like when I see DiCaprio now, everything he does with Scorsese, I'm like, get someone 20 years younger. He's too old for these parts. In Killers of the Flower Moon, which I really like, but I just thought this is a young guy's part. But anyways, but other than that, it's still like, we talk about the style of the film being Hitchcockian. Schlesinger, as he said in that documentary, he hadn't done anything like this before. He did Midnight Cowboy with Dustin Hoffman. He was from the British New Wave. He was like, he had made documentaries. And so he came from that sort of documentary approach, often in his filmmaking. He's a wonderful filmmaker. So this is like, it's almost hard to believe it's him. Like, it's great that he really took this on and that we got more of those, character motivations and exploration of character in there, even though I think it's mostly a plot driven film, which is fine. It's meant to be, it works that way. But I couldn't help but wonder. I'm like, I wonder if he went and looked at some of those Hitchcock films, because use of POV we see a lot. Like when Zell gets killed, it's a great POV of Zell looking back at Hoffman just before he dies at Babe, and then Babe looking from where he is at the top of the stairs down. And, and as as a filmmaker, when you use those shots, the audience is now experiencing what that character is experiencing, looking through their eyes, which Hitchcock used all the time.
Yeah, I've always been such a big fan of that, because it's a great tool to be able to make moments just feel explosive. Robert just left.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like a film noir character now. I'm getting like Venetian blinds on my face because my light is the window.
Oh.
I don't think I had anything else I wanted to say, unless you did, Janae, about Marathon Man. Final words.
No, I mean, no, I'm good. I just always enjoy your company. So I don't care.
And you as well, of course.
I don't care what movie it is, so long as it's not horror.
Well, luckily, horror never works on this channel. I've had no luck with horror films, with the exception of, I think, The Shining did fairly well, probably also because that's Kubrick. But yeah, so you're lucky that I wouldn't ask you to do a horror film. Talk to us about what you're working on now and where people can reach you, which I know you love those questions. Do another hit.
I just like this with something now. Is it off? Okay. What's the question?
Talk about the film you're working on now, or anything you're working on, anything you want to plug, or your website, your social media handles. Where can people find you?
Okay. So, I got hit by a car. Marks 1 year ago, as of this month. Yay me. But I lost my login information for Instagram, and I lost my public domain for my website. The moment I got hit by the car, that part of my memory, gone. It's gone. Like, it just went with the concussion that came with getting hit with the car. So nothing's there for you guys. You won't be able to find me. Never. But as what I'm working on, social media is so freaking overrated. It's just so overrated. But unless you're Robert, then you make it fun and you make it interesting. And I can go on and on about this, but I'll pull myself back. For Robert's sanity. I'm working on. I'm in post-production for a feature film that, if you were to see, well, I think it was like, 2,500 people or something ridiculous saw our last review of Crimes of Passion.
Which it's going up.
Ken Russell and thank you very much, his wife. Thank you for saying kind words. I really do appreciate that. He was a very brilliant artist. But yeah, you divulged quite a bit about what I'm working on. And
right.
yes.
Okay, so we won't say. We won't spoil it.
What I will do is this, because I'm a born entertainer. I will. It's called Dissociated Me. It's a feature film, and it's in post right now. And there's amazing people in it, and a whole amazing cast. Robert, he, in fact, acts in it. He plays
my Hollywood debut.
He plays a wonderful character. He plays a character that I can only describe as the best man ever to walk this earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can.
High praised.
I can say that because he plays himself. But I will give that away. I'm very blessed to have a great team on board, such as Elizabeth Rawlins-Sauter as a producer. She edited wonderful movies. Her last one was The Fall Guy. She's a great friend of mine. She's been extremely supportive throughout all of this, and so have you, Robert. I mean, we were shooting for, a year, and this whole thing started out as one thing, led to a completely different thing, and then now we're here, and it is beyond my expectations. And that's always so wonderful when you go in desiring and longing for something creatively, and you come out and you see something that it's not what you initially wanted or expected. It goes far beyond your dreams, and it's a reality. But you made that happen, man. And if you want to give a plot, I will take it. I will give it to you to give the most vague plot again, if you can do it.
I won't even do it because I'm never vague.
No, you could do it. You could do it. Just no movie references, and let's do it. Okay. So the feature film Dissociated Me is.
I would say it's about the struggle to. Oh God! See, right away, I always feel like I'm giving it away. All right, without any movie, it's a film. It's an artist of some kind trying to find their voice as they're making their own project.
Yeah, that's in that, buy your tickets. When it comes out, you won't say. There's nothing going to be on social media or the websites or anything internet related. This is me going back to my Anthony Perkins roots of developing feature films and producing feature films. So, yeah, I'm a happy, concussed 30-year-old woman. And I'm happy that I'm speaking to Robert and ending this out, bowing out gracefully. So, here we go.
Perfect place to end it.
Close us out, Robert. Come on, close us out.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, head over to the link, patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. Patreon is exclusive content that I create month in and month out. And as a subscriber, you are able to vote on polls and contribute to what I do on Patreon month in and month out. So head over to the link for full details. You can also leave a donation directly to my YouTube channel by pressing the thanks link, which you will find directly below the video frame. Just click on the thanks link and you can leave a donation there if you choose to. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. It is absolutely free to do so. By pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo, you will see it floating above my head in the top left corner. To your top left, in just a second, just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new episodes. Also click the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this episode. Also, you can also share the episode. All of these things are what produce traction to my YouTube channel. So I appreciate you watching and thank you again. And I will see you in the next episode.